Loving greetings and pranams, dear brothers and sisters. It's been a long-held wish of mine to be back in this holy ashram, and particularly among all of you, the devotees in and around our wonderful Ranchi ashram, where our Gurudev started his organizational mission so many years ago, over a century ago. So hearts and souls welcome, loving embrace in his divine consciousness to all of you. And to our distinguished guests, our sannyasis from local ashrams, other ashrams, pranams. It's very touching and very sweet to see you here in our midst today. Please receive the welcome and the respect and divine well wishes for each one of you. Well, my dears, I would like to begin by having us dive deep into the experiential consciousness of the divine and of our great lineage of Param Gurus and Gurudev, from which we draw every wisp of inspiration, every whisper and word of guidance, all of the strength, all of the enthusiasm, all of the courage and faith with which to guide our footsteps on this path of incarnations back to our divine home. So turn the consciousness within, lift the gaze to the kutastha, point between the eyebrows. Relax the body, open the heart, and feel their living presence in our midst. Pray with me. Heavenly Father, Mother, Friend, Beloved God, Bhagavan Krishna, Jesus Christ, Mahavatar Babaji, Lahiri Mahashai, Swami Shri Yukteswarji, and you, our revered Gurudev, Paramahansa Yoganandaji, saints of all religions, we bow to you all. Divine Mother, Divine Mother, Divine Mother, Divine Mother, beloved Gurudev, beloved Guruji, beloved Guruji, beloved Guru, Om, Om. Lift up our consciousness. Fill us with your light. Fill us with your wisdom. Fill us with your divine fortitude. And above all, O Gurudev, fill us with the determination to follow the sadhana that you have lovingly laid out before us, guiding our footsteps, each one individually in your care, as we ascend the pathway to our own divine, expanded and blissful consciousness of liberation, of oneness with Spirit. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Well, my dears, I feel like this is a long-awaited family reunion. A welcome to all of you. I'd like to have a sense of who is here from the environs of Ranchi Ashram and the local vicinity, raise your hands. Those are our dear devotees who do so much to keep up this ashram and keep it as a shining beacon of and place of pilgrimage for devotees all over the world. Who is here from more distant parts of India? Oh, quite a few. Welcome to all of you. Welcome, welcome. And from beyond India, US, Canada, Europe, South America, Australia, other parts of Asia, Africa. Our Guru had such a universal and amazing spiritual family that was drawn to him from devotees such as yourself, from not only all walks of life, but from all backgrounds, all nationalities, truly a worldwide sangam of souls with one goal, one aspiration, one fire in the heart, and that fire is to have our own eternal personal communion with the divine in our heart, in our souls. It is possible. We know it's possible because we've seen the transformation in the lives of those who have followed this beautiful sadhana. I think those of you who I've met before, you know that I don't come before an audience like this to give you a discourse or give you a lecture. We have opportunities throughout the year to imbibe the divine truths, the how to live principles. And of course, we have those marvelous home study lessons that our Guru gave so much of his time and love and wisdom to making available for all of us. Rather, when I come to be with you during occasions like this, it's only to remind you, only to urge you to make that living connection with God, and specifically through the lineage of gurus and our Guru Dev, into whose care, into whose shelter each one of you has been personally drawn by only one, by the Father of us all, by the infinite Spirit. And I want you each to feel every time you have the opportunity to come to this ashram or any of our ashrams, go with that consciousness of, Guruji, I come to enter into your aura, into your consciousness, permeate my brain cells, permeate my heart cells. Lift me out of the forgetfulness and the restlessness of worldly consciousness that is all too present with us as we go about our various duties in the world today. But when you come to the ashram, feel that divine connection. Take just a moment now. Let us establish ourselves again in that vibration. And the reason is because each of these divine ones, the life of each one is an entire scripture in itself, a scripture that's wisdom and inspiration we can freshly drink from, we can freshly absorb and bathe our consciousness in every time we close our eyes, return the consciousness to the Kutastha, and invoke their name and their presence. Feel that as I'm praying and visualizing on behalf of all of you, that great waves of divine upliftment and blessing and healing and transformation are flowing into your hearts and minds right now at this moment from Bhagavan Sri Krishna, from Jesus Christ, from the great Mahavatar Babaji, from Yogavatar Lahiri Mahashai, from our Jnanavatar Swami Sri Yukteswarji, from our Prem Avatar and Guru Dev, Paramahansa Yogananda Ji. Bhagavan Krishna, Jesus Christ, Mahavatar Babaji, Lahiri Mahashai, Swami Shri Yukteswar Ji, Paramahansa Yogananda Ji. We read of their lives and divine qualities in Autobiography of a Yogi and in other writings and talks of our Guru Dev. And we no doubt feel a sense of a certain awe, a certain utter respect and great interest in their teachings. And all of that is wonderful. All of that is part of the life of devotees of this path. But I want you to add something to that, and that is their great divine affection for those who consecrate their worldly desires and harmonize them and channel them into the sadhana, the Kriya Yoga sadhana of deep meditation, love for God, and service to others. I can't begin to tell you how much they want to give to you, how much they want to live in your hearts, to guide your actions, to protect you, to protect all of us from the trials and tribulations of this dark and threatening and dangerous world. Devotee knows no threat. Devotee knows no danger. Devotee knows no lasting fear or insecurity, because as often as those knock at the door of the consciousness or try to grasp onto the heart or the emotions or the consciousness of the devotee, as often as that happens, you take your consciousness here to the Kutastha and you say, Om Guru, Om Guru, Om Guru, Om Guru. Thou art my life. Thou art my love, thou art my life, thou art my love. Shelter me in your enveloping presence. Thou art my only reality. That devotee marches through this world as a victorious divine warrior, able to give help and give love and upliftment and service in whatever way is available and appropriate to those around. As I mentioned, these 3 years since I was last seated here in front of all of you, it was not of my choosing to be away for that long, and it's such a joy again to be with you now, but I want to just share with you that during those 3 years, not a day went by when Guruji's devotees in Ranchi and the rest of India, other spiritual communities and kendras, there hasn't been one day that you haven't been in my thoughts and prayers. And not only my thoughts and prayers, but we began a tradition when COVID created this restrictions on travel and restrictions on gathering. We started a tradition in our monastic communities. The ashrams that I mentioned in India, our ashrams in the US, in Germany, and so on, that once a week, most every week, we come together in an online meditation. Just Guruji's monastic disciples in all the ashrams. And we meditate together from San Diego to Los Angeles to Arizona to East Coast Virginia to ashram in Germany to our ashrams here in Calcutta, in Dwarahat, Himalayas, in New Delhi, Noida, and of course at Ranchi. And we all come together. And at the close of those meditations, we take a moment and we visualize all of you, all of our spiritual brothers and sisters. And we deeply invoke and deeply visualize that light and that joy and that protection and strength and courage and faith and upliftment of consciousness, that it may be tangibly felt by each of you. You know, I've been thinking these last days when getting ready to arrive here and to have the joy of being with all of you. You know, what is it? What is it that we wish for any of our dear ones? Our family members, our children, our parents, our brothers and sisters. What do we wish for them? Same things that I have expressed, that I wish for you, that you be safe, that you be healthy, that you have the necessities of life, that most of all, you feel an ever-renewed sense of fulfillment of the purpose for which we are alive on this planet. And all of these things we are meant to receive from the hands of God, all of them from the hands of God. Guruji, through the science of Kriya Yoga that he taught us and the other techniques, he gave us such a marvelous set of methods for attuning our physical, astral, and causal faculties, our instruments of knowing, our instruments of action, our nervous system, our intuition, our knowing power, to attuning those to that ceaseless stream, ceaseless inflow of divine consciousness. You can feel that right now, just in your seats. Put your hands up just a little bit like this, with your fingers outstretched. Fingers being the terminus of important channels of nerves in the body, are a very sensitive antenna. And we can just feel flowing into your fingers that all-pervading cosmic life, the cosmic mother streaming her life into the outstretched antenna of the hands. Lift up your eyes to the point between the eyebrows and just feel, Mother, Divine Mother, Mother, Divine Mother, stream your infinite life, your light, your vitality and power into my cells, into my bones, into my blood, into my nerves and muscles, into my feelings and thoughts. You can lower your hands now, but feel that you are enveloped, that your faculties can be attuned that quickly, just like that, by practice. It's always there, it's always available. And take a little time when things get challenging, when things get difficult or upsetting in the world, just take a little time to go within. Of course, we have our morning and evening and other times of the day meditation, but this can be just for a moment or two at any time, and just lift up the gaze, the attention to that spiritual center between the eyebrows, and then visualize just what I said, and feel that flow of life and vitality. Feel it in every cell. You know, Guruji gave us that marvelous affirmation in his scientific healing affirmations, where he was saying that cosmic light, that cosmic life, it flows into all my body cells. And he said, their tiny mouths all are shining, their tiny mouths all are drinking. So feel with your cells that inflow of divine vitality. Feel it flowing in liquid form through the blood. Feel it in the bones as a resolute determination, ability to stand amidst the winds of life. Feel it flowing through the muscles, most important. Feel it enlightening and informing all of the feelings, all the emotions, all of the thoughts. In our physical, in our astral, in our causal vehicles of the eternal transcendent soul, we can live in that consciousness. We can live in that. We can have that connection between our bodies, our minds, and our souls to that infinite life and joy. Infinite life and joy that sustains the universe. You know, often we find ourselves thinking when things get difficult, when we have problems to confront or challenges to face in our lives, we think, oh, if only I had a little more money, or, oh, if only I had a little more help, or, oh, if only I had a little more time, or a little more of this, or a little more of that. You know, this is life. This is life on this planet. Devotee learns, the devotee feels and takes conscious control of those needs, of those yearnings, and says, but what I really need is a little more God, just a little more God, and then all the rest of these fall into place. So bring the mind back to that thought. Bring the mind back, not just to the thought, to the feeling, to the perception, and you'll be able to do this. And you'll only be able to do this to the degree that you commit to and establish an inviolable routine of meditation every day using those marvelous techniques of the Kriya Yoga science to take the mind away from the senses, away from the clamor and the pressing needs and pressures and problems of the world, and just go into that inner sanctuary where the gurus, where Divine Mother, the Eternal Father are waiting to embrace with great affection, Guruji taught us to think of that. My Lord, you are the nearest of the near, the dearest of the dear, closer than breath and heartbeat. Nearest of the near, dearest of the dear, closer than breath or heartbeat. Do you ever stop to think of what that means? That these are not just poetic inspirations. Right now, put your hand where you can feel your heartbeat, either on your heart, on your wrist, where you can feel your pulse, where you can feel that heartbeat. And as Guruji told us, the heart, the physical heart that keeps life in the body, it's not just a pump that physically moves the blood through our systems. Yes, it is that. It brings vitality, it brings food and oxygen to enliven and vitalize our physical instruments. But behind that beat of the heart is that great eternal power that sustains the universe. Feel that. When you just feel that thump, 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 you're not feeling the heart. You're feeling that ceaseless inflow of divine sustenance. That's what Guruji meant when he said, closer than breath or heartbeat. We come to feel that just behind my breath and heartbeat, thou art. Just behind my breath and heartbeat, thou art. I see the changes in the lives of devotees who make an effort to live in the continuity of that consciousness. Their lives are transformed, their lives become divine, their lives become an act of seva, automatic seva to those around and to the world at large. Just behind my breath and heartbeat, thou art. That consciousness, of course, is one of the inexpressibly valuable and precious gifts that Mother India has given to the world. that eternal truths in the Vedas, in the Upanishads, in the sacred Bhagavad Gita, the Yoga Sutras, the other scriptures from which our Guru's methodology and sadhana is distilled. And we hear the echo of those divine rishis down the ages telling us that just what we were experiencing, the entire universe is but one, it is but spirit. And that spirit dwells in our hearts, it dwells in the hearts of all beings. And as we come to feel that, as we come to experience that, then that consciousness grows within us that we are all one family. The world is one family. And we have respect for any path by which souls are making the approach to that one reality of spirit. The paths are many. Truth is one. And the wise call it by many names. And out of that we live our lives in the consciousness, again, of may all beings be happy, may all beings be free of suffering. I spoke a little bit about this the last Sunday. We had this dedication ceremony at our educational complex a few miles from here at Jagannathpur. Some of you were there, no doubt. And I won't repeat what I said there, but just to re-emphasize the tremendous role, the tremendous gift that India has for our emerging global civilization. From the time of the Vedas, from the time of the rishis, down the millennia, down the centuries, into the lives of each one of you who have made sadhana the theme of your life, the cornerstone, the pillar of your life. That is where the great hope for our world resides. That is the plan that our Guru articulated out of the divine consciousness, that from those ancient well springs of divine wisdom that India has so selflessly and so conscientiously shepherded and stewarded over the years, that now in this great time of need that our world finds itself in, more and more it spreads beyond the boundaries of India as a gift, as a lifesaver for those brothers and sisters of all lands, of all countries, all religions. Now I'm reminding you of that because I have a special wish to articulate for all of Guru Dev's spiritual family. Those of you who organize your lives around the ashram, perhaps who serve here, who come here regularly for satsang, for on pilgrimage, and those who do not, but in their distant homes, take those lessons of Guruji, those techniques, the Kriya Yoga techniques, and meditate. Meditate twice a day to make that connection a continuous reality in our lives. I want to see, my dears, I want to see each one of you be a living link between the golden age of India's spirituality millennia ago and our emerging global civilization. It can be done. It must be done. Because in this Kriya Yoga path of divine living, we have everything we need. We have the program, we have the methods, we have the inspiration, we have the support of each other to keep reorienting our priorities into what is truly important. And again, it's that realization, thou art my life, thou art my love. Just behind my breath and heartbeat, thou art. Just behind my breath and heartbeat, thou art. Somebody asked me after arriving here a couple of weeks ago from the U.S., knowing I'd been away for a while, and wanted to know, do I see or do I feel any difference between Guruji's devotees since last visit? You bet I do. I see a great difference. And you know what I attribute that to? Two things. When I was here in 2019, those of you who took part in the programs will remember, this was immediately after the inauguration or the launch of that amazing and life-transforming new edition of Guruji's home study lessons, the Yogoda Satsanga lessons, self-realization lessons. So that had just begun back then. Now, this is the first thing. Now, 3 years have gone by, and I tell you, I can see, I can feel, I can intuit how much of that truth has infused itself into your hearts and consciousness and your minds and your actions and the expression on your face and the light in your eyes. I see the effect that that divine outpouring of liberating wisdom is having and will continue to have in an ever greater way on those who take advantage of it, those who take a few minutes after meditation each day to not just absorb the spiritual information, but to forge that link of consciousness between the devotee's consciousness and the guru's consciousness. So that's the first thing, is that the lessons are having that effect. And they will go on having that effect in a greater way as in more and more languages in India and throughout the world. Swami Ishwaranandaji mentioned just some months ago, we joyously inaugurated the Tamil and Telugu edition of the lessons. Other parts of the world, we have brought out the lessons in Italian, Portuguese is on the way, Spanish, German, other languages, to truly give the methodology, to give the means whereby each one of you can be a living link between the golden age of India's highest spiritual civilization and our contemporary emerging family of nations in 2021 and beyond. Second difference, tremendous change and tremendous beneficial change because of the availability of satsanga, of the sangam that has been forged through the online tools that, not everything in the modern world and modern technology is our friend. But there are some things that are, and certainly this has been one. As you all know, and many of you, most of you participate in, we have this online Gyan Kendra. We have weekly satsangs that are made available with captioning in many different languages, so that first time in the 100 years since Guruji inaugurated this divine mission, this divine outpouring of life-transforming truth and power. First time, no matter where we are situated, near an ashram, far from an ashram, in India, in Australia, in Africa, or Europe, or South America, wherever it is, over these last couple of years, we have come together in that virtual Sangam to the great, great benefit of each individual. Don't you feel that? Raise your hands. I know you do, because so many of you write to me and say what a lifesaver it is to have that ability within one's own home to connect with the great consciousness of Gurudev in the company of his other devotees. We had some, I think in India, maybe not so much in India, but other parts of the world, who wrote in after we started having these online convocations or the online meditation center, And some devotees wrote in and said, you know, I have followed this path through the lessons for, say, 30 years, maybe 40 years, and this is the first time I have ever meditated with another Kriyaban. Can you imagine? You can, because you know the power that comes from that. I want to just share one little story with you, and then we'll meditate together. You know, again, I feel that the opportunity that I have when I come in your midst is it really amounts to one thing, and that is to share with you an enhanced and ever vibrant, ever increasing enthusiasm for what Gurudev has given to us. And two stories, really. One is that when I was a young devotee just starting on the path, I lived near our ashram in Encinitas in California, where Guruji's hermitage is, where, of course, many of you have visited there, where he wrote autobiography and some of his other books. And one evening, we had a group of young adults in early 20s, late teens, early 20s, and so on. And for this young adults group, there was a satsang with one of our senior monastics. We knew her as Sister Shanti. She was beautiful, lifelong monastic renunciant there at our Encinitas ashram. And she told us this story. She said some years back she had been, she worked in the office of our revered Sangamata Dayamataji. And one day she went to Ma and said, oh, Ma, it's just so difficult. I just feel I have not enough energy. There's not enough vitality, and I'm really getting worn down by trying to keep up with the routine, keep up with the duties. And she told us, Dayamataji just looked at her with those blazing blue eyes, just radiating divine power, and took her hand and just popped her, tapped her on the medulla, on that divine center at the base of the skull, and said, "What we need here is more enthusiasm." And Sister Shanti told us that just that divine touch, there was such and the accompanying conviction in Ma's words, she felt just uplifted and renewed and completely recharged. So I heard this story. It was very inspiring. And then not long after that, I entered the ashram myself as a young monk and was going through a similar set of struggles. There was a whole new routine in the ashram, coming from the life of living as a devotee outside the world, where we get to pick and choose what we want to do and when we want to do it, and maybe not now for this, and I'll do that one later, and it's all very nice and comfortable. And we come in the ashram, and one of the great, not only challenges, but of course in the end, it's a life-changing blessing, is the routine. The get up much earlier than I had been accustomed to, the meditation at these fixed times, the outdoor work that we all performed as seva to the Guru, and it was quite an adjustment for me in the first few months. I was having a hard time keeping up. And then I remembered this story that Sister Shanti had told us about Ma's words when she said, "What we need here is more enthusiasm." So I took that I said, I can put that into practice. And every morning when I came out of the ashram, out of the front door, and we would walk, those of you who have been there in Encinitas, you know where the ashram for the young monks is there on one corner of the ashram, and we would walk up through the forest, through the hill, up to the public gardens overlooking the ocean, where we would sweep the walks and clean the the facilities and look after the flowers and the plants and so on. And as I would step out that door and walk up that hill to perform those duties, I started making one affirmation or one mantra, remembering this story of Sister Shanti's. And I would just repeat, Lord, flood my consciousness with divine enthusiasm. Flood my consciousness with divine enthusiasm. Flood my consciousness with divine enthusiasm. And I kept on like that, day after day, week after week. And it totally changed. It totally changed my life. It was the difference between a routine that was perhaps a weight or a difficulty into one where there was always that sense of enthusiastic opportunity to serve, to be part of Guruji's mission. Now, I'm telling you this story for a reason. How many of us have read Autobiography of a Yogi? And I think probably 99.5% had the consciousness or the reaction at some point during that marvelous journey of learning about Guruji's life and getting to know him and his teachings. We had the wish in our consciousness, oh, if only I could have been here when he was here. Oh, if only I could have been in his company. If I could have been there to receive his training. And it's a bit of a tradition on our path, I think. I think you'll all identify with this. It's a bit of a tradition where we carry that same consciousness to the next generation. Well, I wasn't here during Guruji's lifetime, but oh, if only I could have been here in Dayamata's lifetime. Oh, if only I could have spent more time around Swami Anandamoy or Bhaktinandaji or those others who were in that first generation. Yes? Yes? They sound familiar? All right. Well, it's understandable. I certainly, and it's wonderful. Of course, there's a great blessing from having that association and that contact. We all cherish it. And yet at the same time, if we depend on it, we're only shortchanging ourselves. We're only shortchanging ourselves because Guruji said, this work will go on generation after generation. And he said, when I am gone, the teachings will be the Guru. And he didn't stop there. He said, through the teachings, through the practice of the techniques, you will be in tune with me and with the great Gurus who sent me. So the reason I'm telling that story is because it wasn't so much that when I heard Sister Shanti's story, I said, oh, if only Ma would knock me on the medulla, then everything would be fine. It isn't. We can take the principle, we can take the inspiration and turn it into something that becomes a personal experience for each one of us. That's what I'm trying to get across to you. You take the vision of that possibility and you find a way to turn it into an affirmation, a mantra, a devotional invocation. And you get all the benefits, you get all the blessings, all the power, all the effects, as if it had happened in a physical encounter. And this isn't just my experience. From talking to many, probably some of you who are here today, I know that you have experienced this. And it's not your imagination. It's not imagination. It becomes, as the years go by, it becomes so real, that presence, that access to divine resources, to divine truth, to that, as I said in the beginning, that divine affectionate presence of our ever-living Satguru, who only wants to take us by the hand and walk with us along the way to that great freedom, that great spiritual light and assurance that he himself lived in and exuded to all who crossed his path. Before we close today, I'd like us all just to meditate together. We'll practice a little bit of guided meditation and affirmation. So please sit up straight. Throw back the shoulders. Draw in the abdomen. Sit up. Focus the gaze, the attention in that great pool of calmness and divine receptivity at the point between the eyebrows. Inhale the breath and then throw it out in a double exhalation. Long inhalation, exhalation. One more time. Now, from that place of receptivity, invoke the presence of our great gurus, Bhagavan Krishna, Jesus Christ, Mahavatar Babaji, Lahiri Mahashai, Swami Sri Yukteswarji, our divine Guru Dev Paramahansa Yoganandaji. Go into that presence, go into that stillness. Offer at their feet any spiritual need, any material or emotional or psychological need. Offer at their feet and just say, Guru Dev, I am thine, thou art mine. I am thine, thou art mine. I am thine, thou art mine. Now let us practice this affirmation together. I'll read it through once and then we'll go back and repeat it together. Guruji gave us this in the lessons. I will ask all my thoughts and feelings my wisdom and intuition to be joyous with the intoxicating wine of thy constant affection. Deeply shall I drink of thee out of the soul cask of silence. Filled with thee, I will dance. Filled with thee, I will dance. In the ever-changing scenes of time, I will drink of thee and will dance with thee eternally. So let's affirm that together and embrace it as the ideal life for the devotee of this Yogoda Satsanga Society Kriya Yoga path. So you repeat with me, I will ask all my thoughts and feelings, my wisdom and intuition to be joyous with the intoxicating wine of thy constant affection. Deeply shall I drink of thee out of the soul cask of silence. Filled with thee, beloved, I will dance in the ever-changing scenes of time. I will drink of thee, I will dance with thee eternally. I will ask all my thoughts and feelings, my wisdom and intuition to be joyous with the intoxicating wine of thy constant affection. Deeply shall I drink of thee out of the soul cask of silence. Filled with thee, I will dance. Filled with thee, I will dance. Filled with thee, I will dance. In the ever-changing scenes of time, I will drink of thee. I will drink of thee. I will drink of thee, and will dance with thee, and will dance with thee, and will dance with thee eternally. I will ask all my thoughts and feelings, my wisdom and intuition to be joyous with the intoxicating wine of thy constant affection. Deeply shall I drink of thee out of the soul cask of silence. Filled with thee, I will dance. 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 In the ever-changing scenes of time, I will drink of thee, 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 and will dance with thee, and will dance with thee eternally. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Beloved ones, our time in this portion of the program has all too soon come to a close, but two things. One is, after a short break, it will be my joy to greet each of you individually and place in your hands some blessed prasad with Guruji's love and blessings. Secondly, I hope that many of you, 1 week from today, we will be beginning our 5-day Sadhana Sangam in Hyderabad. Many of you, I think, are traveling there. Raise your hands if you're going. And those who aren't, it will be live streamed, so please do join us. And not only those of us who are there, but many thousands from around the world, around the entire planet, will be joining us in that program. And then we will continue the affirmation of what it means to drink of the Lord, to drink of Gurudev's love, to drink of his constant affection, to drink of that joy, to dance with him in whatever changing scenes this divine movie of Maya shows before our gaze. We dance with him, we'll dance with him, enjoy, enjoy, enjoy eternally. That's my prayer. That is my confidence in each one of you. Jai Guru, Jai Guru.